The night seemed colder than usual, the kind of cold that didn't just settle on the skin but slipped quietly into the bones. In a forgotten corner of the city, where the streetlights flickered like dying fireflies, a man named Rayan sat on a cracked pavement, clutching his thin jacket tighter around himself. He had once walked these streets with purpose, carrying dreams bigger than his failures. But now he carried nothing. No home, no savings, no certainty. Only exhaustion, only silence, and a heart that was slowly forgetting what hope felt like. That night, as the wind pushed dust and loneliness through the alley, Rayan wondered if life had finally given up on him, or if he had given up on himself first. If you believe kindness still has the power to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Rayan had not always lived like this. He had once been a teacher, gentle, hopeful, and full of patience. His days were spent guiding young minds, and his nights were filled with lesson plans, quiet dreams, and a cup of tea on the balcony. But life has a way of testing the strongest hearts. When his mother fell seriously ill, he left his job to take care of her, spending everything he had on treatments that came too late. After she passed, he found himself standing alone in a world that no longer made sense. Bills piled up, his savings vanished, and the small rented room he once lived in slipped through his fingers. What started as a temporary struggle stretched into long months of hardship. He searched for jobs relentlessly, but each rejection felt sharper than the last. Employers looked at his worn clothes, his tired eyes, and the long gap on his CV with silent judgment. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Eventually, the city he once loved became indifferent to him, and he learned how to disappear between shadows. He ate when kind strangers left leftover food on benches. He slept wherever the cold allowed, and slowly, painfully, he lost belief in the goodness of people. But life has a strange rhythm. Just when darkness feels permanent, a spark appears. One morning, after days without proper food, Rayan walked to a public park where the sun rose gently over the horizon, painting the sky with soft pastel colors. He sat under a tree, feeling dizzy, his vision blurring. That's when a young girl approached him, holding a bright red apple in her small hands. She was no older than 7, her hair tied in uneven pigtails, and her eyes filled with the kind of innocence life hadn't touched yet. She extended the apple toward him without a word. At first, Rayan refused, embarrassed, shaking his head weakly. But the girl insisted with a smile so pure it broke something inside him, something brittle he had been holding together for too long. He accepted the apple, and in that moment a warmth spread through him, not from the fruit, but from the gesture. It had been months since someone had looked at him with kindness, not pity. Moments later, the girl's mother approached, slightly worried, but instead of pulling her daughter away, she offered Rayan a gentle greeting. She introduced herself as Samina. She didn't ask him why he was there or what had happened to him. Instead, she simply asked if he had eaten. When he hesitated, she invited him to join her and her daughter for a simple breakfast at a nearby tea stall. As they sat at the small wooden table, Rayan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: dignity. Samina spoke softly, asking about his well-being instead of his past. She didn't pry. She didn't judge. She simply treated him like a human being worthy of warmth and attention. Rayan felt the tightness inside him loosen slightly. After breakfast, Samina handed him a small brown bag filled with food for later. She scribbled her phone number on a piece of paper and said, "If you ever need help or want to talk, call me." Then she left with her daughter, leaving Rayan staring at the piece of paper like it was a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. For the first time in months, Rayan felt something shift. Over the next few days, he returned to the park. Sometimes he saw Samina and her daughter. Other times he simply sat under the tree, eating the food she left for him when he wasn't around. He didn't call her, not yet. Something inside him still struggled to accept that he deserved help. But the seed had been planted. Every act of kindness watered it. Every smile nourished it. One afternoon, Samina arrived with a backpack. She placed it beside Rayan and said it belonged to her brother, who no longer needed it. Inside, he found clean clothes, a blanket, and a small notebook. When he looked confused, Samina told him she had noticed how his eyes softened whenever he watched children studying in the park. She guessed correctly that he had once been a teacher. That notebook became Rayan's new companion. Each day, he scribbled lesson ideas, reflections, dreams he thought he had buried. It was as if the simple act of writing helped him reclaim pieces of his former self. He started helping children in the park with their homework, and the parents began to notice. They appreciated his patience and clarity, his gentle way of explaining difficult concepts. Slowly, small gestures of gratitude turned into small payments. Nothing substantial, but enough to keep him going. One evening, Samina approached him with a smile brighter than the sunset behind her. She told him her friend worked at a community learning center that provided basic education to children from low-income families. They needed a part-time tutor. When she asked if Rayan would be interested, he couldn't speak for a moment. His throat tightened as emotion rushed through him. He had forgotten what opportunity felt like. The next day, with trembling hands and borrowed clothes neatly pressed, he went to the center. The coordinator greeted him warmly, impressed by his experience and the passion in his voice. She offered him the job on the spot. Rayan felt his knees weaken as relief washed over him. This wasn't just a job, it was a doorway back to life. Days turned into weeks, and Rayan's world began to heal. He rented a small room again, humble but warm. He bought a simple phone and called Samina, thanking her with a voice that shook. She congratulated him as if he were family. Her daughter ran in the background, cheering his name. It made him smile, a real deep smile that reached his eyes. At the learning center, children adored him. They sensed his sincerity, his belief in them. Rayan poured his heart into teaching, guiding each child with the same dedication he once had. Every success story, every grateful parent, every smile became a reminder of how far he had come. His life was rebuilding itself piece by piece, not through miracles, but through kindness that ignited hope. But the moment that truly changed him came months later. During an event at the center, parents gathered to share their stories. One mother stood up and spoke about her son, who had struggled academically and emotionally. She said Rayan's patience had given him confidence, and now he was among the top performers in his class. As she spoke, tears filled her eyes, and she said, "Some people teach lessons, but some people become the lesson." Sir Rayan reminded us that no one is ever too broken to begin again. Those words hit him harder than anything he had ever heard. After the event, he stepped outside, looking up at the sky as tears rolled down his face, not of sadness, but of gratitude. He realized that kindness had not just given him food, warmth, or opportunity. It had given him something far more precious, a reason to believe in himself again. If this story moved you or reminded you of the power of kindness, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps spread these heartfelt stories. Before we end, please comment below, kindness matters. Let's fill the world with a little more light. Rayan's journey reminds us that hope doesn't always roar. Sometimes it begins with a small apple offered by tiny hands. Sometimes it grows from a stranger's smile, a shared meal, a chance given at the right moment. Sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to pull someone back from the edge and help them step into the light again. And so, his story becomes a reminder for all of us. No matter how small, your kindness could be the spark that ignites hope in someone's darkest moment.